To find the derivative of this function, we're going to have to use the quotient rule because we have a function of x divided by a function of x. So to use the quotient rule, we are going to, actually, we're going to first remind you of what the quotient rule says. The derivative of a quotient, I'm going to go ahead and write it in terms of different variables. I'm not going to use f since f is already defined here. So suppose we just had like u over v. Okay, the derivative of u over v is u prime v minus u v prime all over v squared. Okay. All right, so to do the derivative of this, okay, f prime of x, or the derivative of this quotient, it is the derivative of the numerator, x squared, times the denominator, 2 root x plus 1, okay, minus the numerator, x squared, times the derivative of the denominator, 2 root x plus 1, okay, all over the denominator, 2 root x plus 1 squared. All right, now, in order to do, well, I guess we'll do that when we get there. So here, the derivative of x squared is 2x. Okay, and then times 2 root x plus 1. All right, and then minus x squared times, and now to do the derivative of this function here, the square root of x, we're going to rewrite that as, x to the 1/2. Okay, and now we can do the power rule. So we bring the 1/2 down. 2 times 1/2 is 1, and then you just get x to the negative 1/2. And the derivative of 1 is 0. Okay, and then over 2 root x plus 1 squared. Now, this says to find and completely simplify in factored form the derivative. So we have the derivative here. We'd like to simplify this just a little bit. Now, to do this, first, we're going to recognize that we have a negative exponent here. I'm actually going to combine these two x's first. So I've got x squared times x to the negative 1/2, which, when you multiply two things with the same base, you add the exponents. So 2 plus negative 1/2 is 3/2. So we have minus x to the 3/2. Okay. Okay, now, that's not quite right. So root x plus 1 squared. Okay, now in the numerator, we see that we've got a factor of x here in this term on the left, and of course we've got x's here in this last term. And so we can factor out an x. So we're going to factor the x out, and we are left with 2, and then the 2 root x plus 1, minus, and then if we pull an x out of this, we're left with just x to the 1/2. Okay, x to the 1/2. Remember, when you factor out an x, you subtract the power that you pulled out. And so we pulled out the power of 1, and so 3/2 minus 1 is 1/2. And then over 2 root x plus 1 squared. Okay, now we're going to simplify just a little bit in the parentheses here. So x times, I'm going to go ahead and distribute this 2 into both those, into the parentheses here. So 2 times 2 root x is, 4 root x. And then plus 2 times 1 is 2. And then minus x to the 1/2. I'm going to go ahead and write that as root x now. All over 2 root x plus 1 squared. And finally, notice that we've got here a 4 root x minus a root x. So that's 3 root x. So we've got x times 3 root x plus 2 all over 2 root x plus 1 squared. And that is as simple as this can get.